Hey everyone, and welcome. My name is Charles Johnson, lead trainer and technical engineer at Lynxspring, and here is part 2 of that BQL query for down devices. I showed you in the first one how to create the query for both showing like a report of which devices were down or which devices were in fault, and in addition to showing that number in a graphic. However, what if you wanted to send that value somewhere else? Well, there are a few ways to do it, but one way that you could do it is a program object. And with a specific program object, I would like you to see how I would do it here. And so in my program palette, I'm going to drag out a program object here onto a folder, which is under my program folder. And I'm going to name this devices in fault. And so I'm going to right click on this program object and go to the program editor itself. And for those of you who have not seen a program object, here's a quick breakdown. I do have a class that's coming out that's a Java class which teaches all of this. But just the quick cliff notes here. The edit tab is where you're going to contain all of your code. Your slots are what you're going to make your properties or for the component. Your imports are going to be the packages or types of packages that you want. And the source is where you actually can see the whole thing being combined. And so here, I actually don't need an input because I'm going to use a timer function to update this. And so I'm going to right click in the slots tab. I'm going to add a slot. And I'm going to name it devices in fault, just like it has here. And I'm going to make it a Baja double. I'm going to select read only and summary, which means it's going to show it on the wire sheet and it cannot be edited from the wire sheet. And that's the only property that we actually need here. And so here, I'm going to create a few things. One is I want to create a timer function, and one of the ways to do this is using the schedule component. Now to do the schedule component here, we need to create a method, and it can be named anything, but I like to do it as an update timer. I use it really in all of the codes that I do. So I'm going to create one here and call it void update timer. And I'm going to do open and close curly brackets, hit enter, and then run something in here. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use the ticket system from the clock.ticket, which I'm going to declare here after I do the void update timer. And I'm going to say if ticket equals or does not equal null, then ticket.cancel. And so pretty much here is that, well, if the timer was not, if it wasn't in null when we need to do it, we need to cancel that. So we're going to actually do the same thing here in the on stop. And so I can actually just copy this right here. And when we want to shut down the code, we'll go ahead and paste it right here. And we're going to say stop running on shutdown. And then after this here, we're going to create the Niagara, or use Niagara's schedule execute here. So it's going to be on a clock schedule. So we're going to say use Niagara's execute schedule for a 10-minute callback. And we're going to do this on the on execute. Normally in your on execute method, you would set an input that you would create to an execute on change, which means that when a value changes, it would actually execute the code in this on execute method here. So we're going to now say ticket equals clock dot schedule get component b rel time dot make for 600,000 seconds. So that's basically 10 10 minutes there, and B program dot execute, and we're going to return a null value here. Or not return, we're going to make sure the value is null. And outside of this here, we're going to say clock.ticket ticket here. So we're actually creating the variable here, but we're not going to initialize it though. That's actually going to be done in the update timer there. And if you actually wanted to look at that right there, we could actually just type in clock here. You'll see clock.ticket. That's actually the method here. And so then to do that, we need to actually create the clock ticket. And so you can see here it's a type of interface under Java .sys, and it's an action here, or get action for b value or component. So that's how we are able to come up with that. But now with the rest of the stuff, we can go ahead and actually finish the rest of our code here. And so here we want to go ahead and initiate the execute timer when the program starts, or when the station starts. And so we're going to say update timer. And then in the on execute here, we're going to want to execute this every 10 minutes. And so to do that, which we've already hard coded right here. And so we're going to say update timer. And after that, now we need to use the BQL query here. And we make BQL queries with what we call an ORD. And so we need to use a method here, and I'm going to show you that in just a moment with the cell extension to directly fetch the count. Now, some of you may say, well, why are you, writing out all of this? Well, I do write as many comments as I can in order to make sure that someone can understand this when they are coming behind. And so if I want to find out BORD here, because really, remember, everything B stands for Baja. So if I go to BORD here, and we can go here, dot to code and code to string, get, which can get the object base here. But if we wanted to create an ORD, well, we need to actually create it through here. So it's going to be a BORD.make. And you can see that we have quite a bit here. It can be a base and a child, or a query from an array. More base and queries here. And then even a string here. So this is actually called a method overload, where you have a bunch of methods that could do the same thing. And so actually we're just going to do a BORD .make, and we're going to do just a string here. And so we're going to say BORD, so BORD ORD. So that is our variable there. BORD .make. And I'm actually just, no, apparently I had copied the wrong thing here. So station : pipe slot : I'll just type it out here. So this is going to be BQL : select count status from backnet : backnet device where status.fault equals true. And then bring the cell extension in, cell : 0, 0, and do that. Okay, so this is actually how we can make an ORD in a program object, or really a module if you wanted to. And so after that, we're going to go ahead, we need to fetch the result here. And so to fetch that result, we're going to make this an object, result equals ORD. So this is the variable, dot get, because BORD has the get method. And so we're actually just going to get the station itself. And however, we need to take that and actually use it as a specific format. So, in a PX page, we can do like an object to string. So we're going to go ahead and actually take that object and format it to a string. So again, we're going to now use bformat. To format the result. And so here we're going to say string formatted result equals bformat. And then we're going to say %.% result. There we go. And now we need to parse that. So we're actually going to create a helper method outside of this to do this. But it's going to be parse the formatted result. Why do we need to do this? Well, we need to do this because our input or our output is actually a double. So we can't just put a string into a double. We actually have to convert it. And so we're going to do double, and we're going to call it fault count equals parse to double and formatted result. We're going to call this fault count. Okay. And the last thing here is we're going to use the parsed result. And we're going to say set devices in fault to the fault count. Because the fault count is a double directly, so we are allowed to do that. Now, if you look at my slot, my D is lowercase. Well, why is the D capitalized here? Well, it's capitalized here because Java uses camel case, so the first word will always be lowercase, and every subsequent word afterwards will actually have to have a capital letter in it. So that's why we have a capital D. Now, how do I know that there is a setter here? Well, if I go to my source, when we created the input, it created a getter and a setter. This is actually called encapsulation right here. And so we set the device count. But again, this parse to double here, well, again, I told you that this is a helper method because I want to throw an exception if we can't find it. And so I'm going to create my double here. So it's going to be a private double, parse to double. And I'm going to create some parameters here. So I'm going to pass a string called value and a string called label. And we're going to throw an exception here. Now, since I've commented everywhere else, I should comment here. So I'm going to use a different thing here to create a whole paragraph. So this is, by doing this, it actually makes everything a comment for now. So I'm going to say helper method to parse a string to a double with error handling. Value is the string to parse. Label is the context of the value for error messaging. And it's going to return the parsed double value. And then it's going to throw an exception when or if the string cannot be parsed. Now, because we did this, how do we close it? Well, we close it by doing the opposite here. So now this gives us another way to comment entirely here without just doing the slashes here. And so with our method that we do, we're going to use something called a try catch. And basically a try catch will try a function that we create, and then if there is an issue, we can catch it and throw an exception. So we're going to do try, and we're going to do open and close curly brackets. And we are going to return a double, parse double. And we're going to do that as a value, or as the value. Not a, but the value. And we're going to catch the number format exception, E. And we're going to say here, let me go ahead and just... I always do this just to make sure. Now, it may not look the prettiest, but for me, it just knows that I have the proper closing brackets. And so I'm going to throw a new exception. Failed to parse. And I'm going to add a space there so it actually sees the space. Label. And then a space here as a number, space, value, comma, E. Okay, so I think that's actually the whole thing here. It's actually the first time. Yeah, I think that actually looks all okay there. So we've got the update timer, we have the clock ticket, we've created the schedule component. So this will throw an exception first. Because BORD was not put in a package here. So I have not added that package yet, but I want to show you an exception here, or how to troubleshoot these errors. And so if I go ahead and hit save, you're going to see here it says BORD. It says can't find the symbol, and it can't find the class BORD. And again, if we were to go to our help here, and we see our public final class BORD, we see this package here, javax.baha.naming. So let's go ahead and hit copy here. And let's go back to our program object and hit import package. Now you could also actually have just done Baha and ORD if you wanted to. Under type, it would have done the same thing here. And let's go ahead and run it again. And we can see that nothing, that we now have a fully full program without syntax errors here. And let's go back here, and I don't want to wait the 10 minutes. I'm going to right click and hit execute, and we can see that I have the 35 devices in fault. And so obviously if I want to create a numeric writable and say faulted devices and bring that value in here, I can do so like that. Now again, I can change this then from devices to fault to devices down. So instead of status.fault, status.down. But that's actually how to create it as a program object. And again, this is going to execute every 10 minutes. And I don't necessarily mind that because there's going to be a timeout when a device goes down anyway. And so trying to just, do this every second or every 30 seconds, I don't think is really going to do anything. So I think 10 minutes is more than enough time for this. But that's actually the program object. And I think that's going to be my last video of the year. So to each and every one of you, have a happy new year, and I will see you in the next one.